Ever wonder why most people's Facebook ads fail to generate profits while a small number rake in millions? Me and my team have generated over $100 million in sales from Meta ads in the last 7 years. And in this time, we've uncovered some surprising ways to help a weird mix of businesses scale their ad campaigns to 7 figures and beyond. In this video, I reveal the hacks, tricks and techniques that work for both sales and lead campaigns, often by doing the exact opposite of what Facebook recommends. Oh yeah, there's also going to be a free bonus section where I reveal our $100 million scaling protocol, so make sure you have a pen handy for that bit. Picture this, you're Sarah, running an online store that sells luxury products. You spend $500 on your first Facebook ad campaign, which brings in $2,000 in sales. Excited, you quickly put the $2,000 back into your ads, but you end up with total sales of just $1,500. Sound familiar? Here's the thing, Sarah's not alone. Many think scaling Facebook ads is like turning up the volume on a speaker. Pump more money in, get more sales out. But it doesn't work like that. For example, we have an insurance client who was getting a ton of cheap leads from their ads, but no matter what they tried, they couldn't turn a profit. When we put the scaling techniques you're about to learn into action, their lead cost actually went up, but they got higher quality leads, and the company ended making 7-figure profits. See, scaling Facebook ads is more like baking a cake than flicking a switch. There's a recipe, and you're about to learn one of the most important ingredients. We see a lot of advertisers leaving underperforming ads running, hoping they'll magically turn around. But all this really does is make Zuckerberg richer and drain much needed money from their business. So how do you know when to pull the plug on an ad? Well, I've got a little secret for you. Most of the time you can tell if an ad's going to work after as little as 2,000 to 4,000 impressions. Now, I can already hear the ad gurus shouting at the screen, "This isn't enough impressions." But unless your product costs several $100s or more, you don't really need to wait weeks to judge your ads. Now, later in the video, I'm going to share with you our $100 million scaling protocol. But before we go deep into the numbers and figures, this is what we've learned about Facebook ads. If there's no spark early on, your ad is probably not going to get better. Think of it like a first date. Your ad either clicks or it doesn't. So here's what you do. Set up your ads so they all get a fair shot. Give each one enough budget to hit that 2K to 4K impression mark over 2 to 3 days. Then look at your data. If an ad isn't showing any signs of life, pause it. Don't waste more money hoping it'll get better, especially if you have other ads bringing in profits or high quality leads. By cutting those underperforming ads quickly, you're freeing up more budget for the winners. And let me tell you, this is crucial if you want to scale to 7 figures. You've got to be smart with your money. But knowing when to kill ads is just the start, because unless you know how to create ads that connect with each segment of your audience, you're never going to scale. You know that feeling when you meet someone for the first time and they just get you? That's what we're aiming for with our ads. But here's the thing, most advertisers think they understand their audience when they're just scratching the surface. Let me show you how to dig deeper and create what we call forever ads. Now, you might be thinking, forever ads? Come on, Mike, nothing lasts forever. And you're right, but what if I told you there's a way to create ads that keep bringing in sales year after year? Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not, but there is a catch. Creating these forever ads isn't about being particularly clever or creative. It's about understanding your audience on a deep level. You need to tap into the emotions, fears, and desires that drive them. It's like being a mind reader, but with data. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're trying to sell a new kitchen to a work from home mum. Most advertisers would throw a list of features at her. Look at this amazing storage space. Check out this high-tech oven. But what if the real reason she wants to make the switch is because she's hated that old kitchen since the day she moved in? Suddenly, the whole psychology of the ad changes. To create forever ads, you need to speak your audience's language and address problems they often don't know are important to them. You're not guessing what they want, you're using cold, hard data to understand them better than they understand themselves. But it's not just about understanding your audience, it's about using that understanding to tell a story that drives them to buy. You want to create ads that show a relatable character facing a problem, finding a solution, and experiencing a positive change. This structure engages the audience and makes your product feel essential to their lives. Now, I can already hear you shouting at the screen, "Sounds great, Mike, but how the heck can I do that?" Well, you're in luck, because I'm going to show you. Alright, let's talk about creating those forever ads that'll keep your sales rolling in for months and in many cases years to come. Even if you think you know your audience inside out, you're almost certainly missing some crucial insights. Remember, buyers are liars. Data is where the truth lies. And to get to that data, we're going to need to make some ads. Let's start by making a list of all your audience's possible pain points. We want to dig deep here. What keeps your customers up at night? What are they afraid of? What do they dream about? Use tools like ChatGPT to generate ideas about customers' challenges and frustrations. You might be surprised at what you uncover. Once you've got your list, create a series of ads, each focusing on a different pain point. Make 10 or more ads depending on how many possible pain points your audience has. Each ad should tell a story showing how your product or service solves that specific problem. Now, here's where it maybe gets controversial. We're going to test these ads using an ABO campaign, which stands for Ad Set Budget Optimization. Give each ad its own ad set with the same small daily budget, so each ad gets a fair shot at delivering profits. Let those ads run until they hit about 2,000 to 4,000 impressions over 2 to 3 days. Once you hit that mark, look at your data. Identify your gold mines, the ads that are performing well. These high-performing ads are now the foundation of your forever ads. But we're not done yet. Once you unearth your audience's pain points, repeat this process for benefits, objections, and identifying names like busy mum or fitness enthusiast. By systematically uncovering different language that resonates with different segments of the same audience, it suddenly becomes easier to generate massive profits month after month, year after year. Now, this is the point where we see too many advertisers miss out on easy sales. So let's dive into it. Think of your ad account like a garden. You've started planting some of the forever ads we talked about earlier. But if you want to hit that 7-figure mark, you need a whole variety of ads blooming inside of it. So how do we make this happen? By bundling your ads into themes. When you've got 2 to 5 profitable ads that address a similar benefit, group them together in the same ad set. Let Facebook figure out which ads to show which person and when. And when you have ads addressing a common objection, put them into another group. You can even group ads based on identifiers like business owner or entrepreneur. The more segments of your audience you can target with your ads, the easier it becomes to scale up to 7 figures and beyond. Why? because you can now target the same audience in 2, 3, 5 different ways without the risk of your ads burning out. Now, let's look at where a surprising number of people go wrong. They get their ads all nice and profitable, but then they use the wrong settings for scaling. Advantage Plus audiences. They're supposed to be this amazing tool for Facebook ads, but I think Meta deserves a lot of criticism for pushing these as the default option for your ads. Don't get me wrong, Advantage Plus audiences can be powerful, but they're not for most people, especially when you're testing. It's like taking a Ferrari for a spin when you've just learned to drive. It's risky. For testing, you want control, which maybe surprisingly is where broad audiences of 1 to 20 million people or more come in. Sound crazy? Well, these aren't just any audiences. They're interest-based audiences that you know with 95% certainty your ideal buyers fit into. For example, if you're selling tennis rackets, a broad, obvious interest would be Tennis Magazine. Of course, this audience contains some people who only enjoy watching tennis, but Facebook's algorithm is pretty smart. Give it a big but targeted audience and it'll work its magic without going off the rails. Which brings us to what's possibly the most misunderstood of all the scaling tools, knowing how fast to increase ad spend without losing a ton of money. Now I know what you might be thinking. Just tell me how much I need to spend to hit 7 figures with my Facebook ads. And it's a great question, but tricky to answer. That said, I've got some solid guidelines that'll help you navigate these murky waters. Let's start with a good rule of thumb. Say you've got an ad set with 3 ads that are making you good profits. You want to spend enough to get started with your ad scaling, but not so much that you overwhelm the algorithm. So what's a good starting point? About $50 to $100 per day in most cases. Now, I know it might not sound like much, but trust me, it's often a smart place to begin. And once you start seeing profits, you increase your budget slowly. Now, if you're spending less than $100 a day, you can be quite aggressive and increase from $40 to $60 and from $60 to $90 per day. But once you hit that $100 mark, try increasing about 20% every few days. Now, this is important. Only increase your daily budget when your profits are steady, so you can find that sweet spot between growth and stability. If an ad set isn't delivering, don't keep pumping more money into it. See, the smartest advertisers in the world know when to stop scaling ads that have reached their limit. So start small, scale safely, and always keep an eye on your profits. That's how you'll get closer to that 7-figure mark without losing your shirt in the process. Which brings us to a very big question. How often should you refresh your ads when aiming for $100,000 in sales per month? You know how sometimes you hear a song that you love, but after a short while you just can't stand it anymore? Well, the same kind of thing can happen to the way your audience feels about your campaigns, especially if you haven't made any forever ads yet. This then results in Facebook decreasing the number of people who it shows your ads to, which means you make less money, less sales. So how do you know if your ads are reaching enough people to generate the profits you need? It's something Facebook calls ad frequency. This number shows how many times, on average, each person sees your ad. We often find a good frequency over a 30-day period to be 2, which means on average, people are seeing your ads about twice a month. But this number is more a guideline than a hard rule. The most important thing to keep in mind is if your ad frequency goes above 2, and your profits start dropping, it's time to make some new ads. But, and here's another cool thing about forever ads, you often don't need to start from scratch. Usually, just changing an image or updating 1 or 2 words in the headline can be enough. Think of it like giving your ad a little makeover. Most of the ad stays the same, but a few small tweaks can give it a fresh new feel. But frequency isn't the only metric you need to watch. Let's dive into the numbers that are even more important when it comes to scaling. You know, it's funny. I see so many people get fixated on the cost of their CPMs or clicks. But here's the thing. The only thing that matters is if you're turning a profit. ROAS, or return on ad spend, is like the scoreboard for your Facebook ads. It tells you how much cash you're bringing in for every dollar you spend on ads. To calculate this number, Facebook takes your revenue and divides it by what you spent. So if you drop $100 on ads and make $300 in sales, your ROAS is 3. So the next question you're probably asking yourself is, how much ROAS should I aim for? Well, the bigger you can get this number, the better. But if you're selling digital content, you might be able to turn a decent profit with a ROAS as low as 1 or 1.5 if you've got a solid back-end offer or some recurring revenue. And if you're selling physical products like most e-commerce stores, you might need to aim for a ROAS of 3 or more to cover your costs and make some profits. Now this brings us to something that a lot of people have been asking for. I wanted to save this for now because we've covered a lot of the theory of scaling to 7 figures, and now it's time to look at the real life numbers in some of my ad accounts. In this bonus section, we're going to jump into the brain of a $100 million advertiser so you can start your journey to your first million in sales. So roll up your sleeves, grab a pen and paper, and let's do some scaling. This is where I'm going to attempt to answer all the questions that I think you're going to have about scaling. Forgive me if I miss something. If I miss anything out, just drop your questions into the comments and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. But we're going to start with how we do our testing, our initial ad testing. We're going to take you through then to how we organize our winning ads, and take you then to how we scale our ads and are able to generate minimum 7 figures per year on the businesses that we work with. This is a test that I did recently. So here we were testing 10 different pain points, and each ad set contains 1 ad. So you can see here Feg A1, and I'll move on to the next tab. Feg A1 just has that identifier, that 1 pain point here has 1 ad inside it. So we've got 10 identical ads, and the only difference between each one of the ads is the first line of text and the headline, which basically reflect each other. So let me show you what that looks like. So here are 3 ads that we were testing, and this is the difference in how they look. So they've all got a very similar format. In this case, I wouldn't recommend this for most people, but because we've been working on this account for such a long time, we actually did this test with a video that we know works really, really well. So I would recommend for 95% of people to not do their ad testing, their initial ad testing with video. I recommend it with images, but in this case we broke our rule. So these 3 ads all look the same. So they've all got more or less the same headline. They've all got the same body of text. You can see that's all long copy there. But what is different is this first line. So the 3 different pain points that we tested here were feeling under threat, being worried about the future, and facing uncertainty. 3 very different pain points that can dramatically affect the way people receive your ad. That first line of text in combination with this headline here, that's your initial point of contact for your ads. So you really want to be focusing in your ad testing those very, very clear and obvious
points of entry to your ads, because if people aren't interested by that initial text, they're not going to click the video, they're not going to read the ad. So what did we do in this test? Well, let's take it back to day one. So all of the ads with the exact same budget. So we figured out the CPM is roughly $50, $50. So we want to get 2,000 impressions. It can be 3,000 or 4,000, but let's say 2,000 impressions over a 2 to 3 day period, minimum 2 day period. 3 days even better than 2 in some cases. So what do? We figure out the CPM and we kind of half that. When you know the ad account, it's really easy to have an estimate, a decent estimate of what your CPM is going to be. If you don't know, you kind of just guess it and take it from there. So let's say that our CPM is 50, which it roughly is here. The average is 50 here. Then we will set all of these ads to $20, $25 per day. When you're testing, all your ads need to be under the exact same conditions, okay? They all need to have the exact same possibility of success. So the targeting is the same, the audience is the same, the budget is the same, the ad copy is the same. The only variable is one thing, and in this case, it was a pain point. So we've got our 10 ads, and we let them run. Now, this is the data after day one. So as you can see here, they've got impressions, but not tons. That's absolutely fine. We want the impressions to be somewhere around the 700, 1,000 impressions mark after day one. That's fine. We're probably not making tons of decisions there, but what we will do is we'll just have a little look and see what the engagement's like. We can see some of the engagement, the CTR is really, really high. That could be good, but it's not always good. It's just something that you make a note of. You kind of go, okay, these guys, they're really high CTR, that's basic engagement. But you also want to look at intent. Now, intent is when they're actually clicking a link to go to your ads. The ones with the highest click-through rates were the same ads. Okay, so these have potentially got something interesting about them. So we're definitely keeping those. You might look at the bottom for these. You might look at these and go, do any of these ads have shockingly bad engagement? So if your average is 9% CTR, which is fairly high, and you've got an ad of, say, I don't know, 3%, 5%, after a day, after say 1,000 impressions, like this one here, got tons of impressions. Not quite sure why. Maybe a low CPM. Let's have a little look at that. No, don't know why that one did, but it did. And you might look at that and go, what's the CTR on that? 8.7 is close to the average. What's the CTR? 2.3, close to the average. I'm going to let that test run for another day. I'm not ready to make any decisions yet. So we run it for another day, which is what you're about to see now. Okay, we run it for another day, and now we've got more impressions. So we're averaging maybe 1,500 impressions after day 2. And we're doing the same thing. We're not overly focused on CTR and CTR. They're important metrics, but we're also going to look at things like leads. Now, this is a lead campaign. Later on, we're going to look at sales campaigns. The principles don't change, okay? If you're bringing in leads or bringing in sales, the principles of everything that you're about to see here are exactly the same. So we look at things like CTR. We're looking for ads that get very low engagement. If they're getting very low engagement, that's a bit of a worrying sign, okay? There's something probably different about that ad. Maybe it needs to be stopped. We look at the click-through rate, the intent, not great. Then we look at the leads. And in your case, if you're e-com, then you'd be looking at sales. Now, if you've got a low-priced product, $20, $30, $50, you may start seeing some sales off your first test. That's a sure sign of intent. But there's an expression in marketing that says one sale is no sale. The same applies to one lead is no lead. You will often find that an ad will get a lead, but one lead doesn't really tell you very much. If I've got a bunch of ads here, one's got 4, one's got 3, this one lead doesn't really mean anything to me. Could just be luck, could just be Facebook trying to help me out with a really bad ad and just delivering one result. So I'm going to ignore that lead in most cases when I see that all of the other metrics are not looking great. So low engagement, low click-through rates. So I'm just going to, as it has already been, I'm going to turn that one off after day 2. Now, it looks like we let this ad test run for another day. So let's run it for one more day. Let's see what happens. Most of these ads ran a little bit further because we weren't happy with the data that we had. So now you can see here that we weren't happy with the volume of data that we had. Now you're close to 2,000 impressions. So this is good. This is when you can start making some decisions. So you're going to look at things like the number of leads that you got, because at the end of the day, if you're spending an equal amount of money to get 5 leads and 1 lead, there's a pretty good chance that if you're only getting 1 lead compared to another ad that's had the same conditions and delivered 5, there's a pretty good chance that that 1 lead ad isn't a keeper. There's something off about it. There's something about the messaging. There's some maybe an unrealistic expectation that people have where they see the headline. Like, there's a big difference between an 11% CTR all and a 3% click. That's like almost 4 times the amount of people engage with the ad as they do click the link. That's a bad sign. Okay, that means there's something clickbaity about that particular ad that sets an expectation that people, when they actually interact with the ad, think, that's not really what I was hoping it would be. So we would definitely, 99 times out of 100, kill that one with the code P14. Okay, so that would go. Maybe the same for this one here, where we've got a similar kind of scenario. It's not a particularly high CTR all. Comparatively, it's more or less average. The CTR is more or less average, so it might be okay. But 1 lead, when I've got this guy delivering 5, this guy delivering 4, I'm probably going to kill it. Probably. Now, there's something more important than, if we're talking about leads, there's something more important than cost per lead. Cost per lead is okay. Like, you can't, in most cases, afford to pay ridiculous amounts of money per lead. You want to, find a happy medium between getting a high quality lead and not paying too much for it. So what we do here in our testing, whenever possible, and this is much easier when it comes to something like ecom, is we want to look at the actual revenue that's generated. So if this were a sales campaign, you would have, revenue generated would be here, and you would say something like 5 sales, $1,000 or $500, and you're like, okay, well, that's really, really good sign. I'm definitely going to keep that one. But in lead gen, it's different. In lead gen, what you need to do is you need tracking. So I'll show you what I mean now. All right, so here's some identifying data. This is a slightly different campaign, but the principle's the same. So you see how we have a pain point 5, pain point 5. These two, this one ad, I should say, with this same identifier, generated quite a lot of sales. Generated 21,000 in sales. That's a really good sign. Okay, so the advantage of lead gen can be that you get really, really much bigger sales than ecom, which tends to be, in the low hundreds. Whereas with lead gen, you can generate a lot more money. So if this ad with this code FEG P12 brought in the 5 leads at a really good cost per lead, so you can see their cost per lead is probably about $20. There you go, $22. And I've spent $100 and I've generated $1,000. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to keep that ad running. Okay, there's something about that ad that's really, really good. And I'm going to be judging my initial testing off a few different things. I'm going to be judging it off how many leads or sales is it bringing in? Is it generating a lot of engagement? Is it generating a lot of clicks? And I'm basically looking for reasons to keep the ads. Some people might work off the perspective of looking for reasons to lose the ads. I'm always trying to find an argument to keep an ad. But if I can't find it, then I'll kill it. So if I see, for example, here, I've got another 5 lead ad, okay? I've got the A1 ad here. Same price per lead, $22, as this one here, $22. But if I then look in my CRM and I see no, well, for lead gen, I see nothing in the pipeline, so no calls are booked. If I see there's been if there's been a lot of no-shows, for example, on that particular code, the FEGA1, if I see there's nothing coming in terms of sales, then I'm more likely to stop that ad and keep the other ad, because the other ad has already shown intent. People are already signing up, they're already booking calls, they're already showing up for calls, and they're already turning into deals. It's a huge difference. And for ecom, the principle is, if this here is generating sales, then it's good. If it's not generating sales, then it's bad. I don't care about things like link clicks. People get fixated on link clicks. I don't care about link clicks. I care about sales. Like if I have 25 link clicks and I have $500 in sales, that's great. And if I then have 50 clicks and $500 in sales, that's equally great. So I'm going to keep both sets of ads. All right, so we're in a different account here. I've stuck with lead gen for now. The next one will be sales. So we've got our winning ads. We've figured out, we've tested pain points, we've tested benefits, we've tested objections, we've tested identifiers, and we've got our winning ads. Whenever possible, group your winning ads into one ad set of a similar theme. So in this case, the theme here is actually location. So sometimes you'll be doing local lead gen, and the same would apply to ecom. You might be selling in a particular country. We try and group things together whenever possible. So you have here 5 ads that are all proven to generate sales and generate revenue and generate profits. So I put them all into the same ad set. So you can see here, one ad set selected, put them all into here, and then let Facebook decide how to spend that money. Now, if I'm seeing weird results, like let's have a look at this. So what am I seeing here? I'm seeing a really high cost per lead there and there. But overall, I'm seeing for this ad account, bearing in mind these guys are selling products that cost easily 6 figures, so they can afford to pay $50 per lead when it could potentially bring in $10,000, $100,000 or more dollars. It's not a problem. So if I look at my average, treat the ads like the average cost in this case. When I'm testing, so go back to testing. When I'm testing, I'm looking at the cost to an extent of the lead, more about the profitability, but also the cost per lead to an extent of the individual ads. When I'm scaling and I'm putting all of the ads into one ad set, then I'm looking more at the average. As long as the average is good, that's fine, because what these ads basically do is they serve as retargeting ads. So I'm not overly worried about whether or not this ad doesn't get that many leads in a given period of time. What I'm really concerned about is how does this ad set behave as a collective, as a group. Now, I will still keep an eye on things, and if I do see that this is spiraling out of control, this one ad, I may stop it for a little while and see how that affects things. It's really easy just to pause it and come back a week later, see how the ad set as a whole is behaving. Has the cost per action gone up? Has the cost per lead gone up? Have I've been generating the same amount of sales or better or worse, and kind of take action based off the data that I get there. So that's pretty much it for organizing the ads into ad sets. CBO or Advantage Plus campaigns are not something that we generally use. So we tend to just bunch things into ad sets. So the theme of each ad set is pretty clear. We write that into the title of the ad set, and we change the targeting. In this case, it's geo-targeting. So different parts of America, we will have different ad sets just to kind of see that geographical kind of mix, see how that's getting on. And that's pretty much it for organizing the ads. You can have lots of different campaigns if you want to. So we might have one campaign for the UK, one campaign for the USA. We might do that. It really doesn't change very much. It's more a question about how you personally want to organize your ads. We'll often have, if the same client is targeting B2B and B2C, we'll have a B2B campaign and a B2C campaign. It just separates things nicely. So for scaling your ads and increasing ad budget, the principles for sales campaigns and lead campaigns are exactly the same, okay? So in this case, you can see we're in an ad account that's generating sales, that's using the purchase objective. And basically what we want to do is we've got our different ad sets with our different winning ads in, and we just want to gradually increase the budget if we feel that it's appropriate to do so. So what have we got here? Let me pull this out so we can see the ROAS from Hyros. Whenever possible, we use Hyros to for our tracking. It is a fairly expensive solution, so it's not for everybody. You can see the data isn't a million miles away here from Facebook, but it is different. We tend to go for Hyros whenever we can, because it saves a lot of manual attribution that we have to do sometimes if we haven't got Hyros. So in this case, I'm looking and thinking, what, if any of these, can we afford to scale? So in this case, this ad account is profitable as soon as we hit ROAS 1. ROAS 1 means spend $1, get $1. But we've got so much stuff that happens after the sale that within 14 days, 30 days, that ROAS 1 can become ROAS 2, ROAS 3, ROAS 4. So, and that's all we're tracking here in this ad account, is just that initial sale, the initial money made from that sale. So in this case, I might be thinking 1.42 is pretty good ROAS for this account. So what I'm going to do here is potentially increase the budget. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my frequency. So let's just go along to here. So the frequency here, 1.58, isn't very high. I would be quite comfortable increasing that budget by about 20%, maybe 10%. Let's have a look and see what the budget is. So the daily budget here is 330. I would probably take that up to about 390, maybe 360, 390, depending on how the ads have behaved every time that I've scaled them in the past. So again, you're feeling your way into this. I would go 360, 390, let's say 390, and then I would wait for several days. And I would look at this, I'd come back to this after, say, 2-3 days, and I'd be looking at everything. I'm not going to let it sway my perspective too much, but I'm still going to look at it. I'm going to look at the CTR all. I'm going to look at the CTR over that new period. I'm going to compare the two periods, the before I scaled and the after I scaled, and I'm going to see if anything looks weird. You're just looking for weirdness. Like if everything looks pretty much the same, then, and the ROAS stays the same, I can do it again. But I'm looking for clues. And the big clues, the ones that I find are the most important, are CTR all, which is your basic overall engagement, and CTR, which is the click on your link, which shows intent. So basically, if that stays the same, then after 2, 3, 4 days, again, depends on the account, I'll go from 390. I mean, I might be a little bit more aggressive, but I'd probably go to something like 450 a day. And it's roughly 20%. You know, you could be conservative and do 10 or 15%. It's not wrong. You might find that if you go closer to 10%, that you can scale a bit more frequently. But we tend to do 20%, 2, 3, 4 days. Make sure it's stabilized. Make sure, you know, all of the numbers look good, not just the ROAS. And then kind of think about doing it again all the time, keeping an eye on the frequency. Now, I mentioned this earlier in the video. We recommend around about 2 in most accounts, but it really, really depends on your account. You kind of have to figure this out for yourself. I've seen some accounts work fine on frequencies of 3 and 4. I've heard of some people running successful accounts with insanely high frequencies. So there's always exceptions to the rule. I'm always trying to provide you with the rule, but there are exceptions.
It's great that you got through that section, because really that shows me how serious you are about scaling your ads to 7 figures and beyond. And now you have it, the blueprint for scaling Facebook ads to 7 figures. From creating forever ads to focusing on the right metrics, you now have the tools to take your campaigns to the next level. Next up, you may want to learn how to copy Facebook ads that make millions, where I'll show you how to swipe ads from top advertisers and avoid the mistakes that cause 70% of all ad campaigns to fail. Click here to watch it now.